It's 1985, Soviet Kiev, and this thing spawns into existence. The Echo TDS-16. At a glance it doesn't appear much to look at, so let's take a deep dive. Upon closer inspection, everything is where it should be. Nothing feels cheap, out of place, or a design afterthought. The overall weight is not heavy, but feels reassuring in the hand. The spring steel headband is a good size ergonomically and provides the perfect amount of clamp that is neither too tight or loose. The suspension headband is currently an uninspiring piece of flat vinyl that should actually be inflated, but this one has suffered a puncture. Even in this state, it forms to the shape of the head and provides adequate wearing comfort. The suspension headband adjustment sliders are excellent, with molded corrugated grips on both sides. They have an industrial strength clicking mechanism inside. Very likely a short and powerful spring-loaded ball bearing. The plastic connectors to the cups are a robust U-shape that end with a rather elegant universal joint. The cups nicely match the headband with a series of vents that punctuate the utilitarian aesthetic. My copy has been well used, and also well cared for, with a set of aftermarket earpads which are very close to the originals, and I can only assume the original plug suffered an irreversible fate, as it has also been replaced. The cable is still pliable and will surely serve this headphone well in future decades. To understand why is this headphone, we need to take a peek inside. Inside this unassuming shell lies a hint. The orthodynamic nerds among you will immediately recognize these drivers as Yamahas. Unlike Yamaha orthodynamics, which have an unmistakable grid pattern in the magnets, these have a concentric pattern instead. Fundamentally, however, these drivers are almost direct facsimiles of Yamaha's 1975 achievement. Going further, one could argue that the implementation of a suspension headband and a universal joint is further evidence of intellectual borrowing. But this is a headphone review and not an exploration of 1980s Soviet economic morals. On the head, these feel good. It's fairly easy to find a good position which provides a good base seal. If I weren't terminally averse to on-ear pads, I might consider wearing these on a semi-permanent basis. What is clear from the first moment is that the sound is very good. Staying true to its namesake, the TDS-16 also has a resistance of 16 ohms. However, it also has a low sensitivity of 91 decibels per milliwatt. While they are not the easiest headphone to drive, a small headphone amplifier will do just fine. They do not need serious amping to perform well. The mid-range is almost entirely linear, which tricks the brain into thinking the tonal response is accurate. Let's have a quick look at the frequency response, which was recorded using the mini DSP ears. It's important to remember that these graphs are only a guide, but they can still provide valuable insight or confirmation. As suspected, bass and treble are quite lacking, but there is no significant observable flaw in the tuning of this headphone. In order to correct these issues, I simply plugged it into my Fosi K5 Pro and ham-fistedly cranked up the bass and treble. The TDS-16 takes tone correction like a champ. There's no audible distortion and the frequency response takes a big turn for the better. Obviously, this is only a suggestion, not a rule, but I found this to be quite a tasteful final result that not only plays well for a vintage headphone, but just plays well. The soundstage is predictably small. There really isn't much more we can expect from on-ear headphones and small form factor planars. However, this is saved by the more than adequate level of detail and the usual classic fast and clean planar response. Now I want to make some comparisons with other known historical orthodynamic headphones. I will also be comparing them to my modified Hi-Fi Man HE500, as it's always good to compare things with a known reference model as a basic sanity check. First, I have the Alega FR901C. I found the Alega to have a warmer tone and a mostly smoother sound presentation, but also stronger and better treble articulation and detail. The Alega has a touch more upper bass slam, which made them sound a little more musical sounding. However, I think the housing might have also introduced a slightly more plastic timbre to the sound. Perhaps an earpad upgrade might be enough to remedy this, but the echo sounded a bit more technical overall, but also a bit more boring. Next I have here a Fostex T10. Immediately I note a slight reduction in detail, but more musical tonality. Another strong difference is the imaging is more central and inside the head. The echo spaces the sound further out, left and right. Next I have the Hi-Fi Man HE500. Obviously there's no competition, with high detail, linear sound, correct open timbre and bigger soundstage. All the vintage orthos have a smaller soundstage that doesn't move around the head as much, and a tone that doesn't extend as well on both ends of the spectrum. All three of these vintage orthos suffer timbral issues, likely caused by the driver being trapped by a more enclosed cup, which often lead to specific tonal resonances. Objectively, the build and sound quality is very difficult to criticize. As a piece of engineering, the result gets a high passing grade from me. Subjectively, however, I can't think of one reason to recommend it. To put it mildly, I don't have a strong appreciation for on-ear headphones. I usually can't stand wearing them for longer than 10 to 20 minutes due to discomfort. I wish that wasn't the case, because I would wear these more often if I could. Take it easy, I'll see you in the next one.